Good afternoon and welcome to the Joy Show with Rev B. I'm Reverend Barbara Schreiner Trudell, and I am so delighted to be here with you today. I want to begin by just reminding you, Joy, well, for me, the acronym stands for just one you. And I think that's an important message that as we recognize our oneness, as we recognize our uniqueness, as we begin to just love ourselves as we are, beautiful things happen. So, as we begin today, I am in Nova Scotia, Canada, and I'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that we are located on Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship with Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik people and was first signed with the British Crown in 1725. I respectfully acknowledge the ancestors, the medicines, the language, and the teaching of the Mi'kmaq people and the lands that have been stewarded for millennia and that they call home, that we call home. We're here and we are grateful to be able to live, work, and play here. And we seek to always uncover the truth and to ensure the Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing continue. So today we honor all Indigenous and Métis people across Turtle Island, for we are one. Well, the Joy Show reflects the power of living authentically. And at CSL on the Lake, we teach the power of our thinking to create our beautiful life. And when we live authentically, we experience God's grace and joy is possible. So knowing that there's only one thing going on, God the good, and that I'm somehow some part of that, you are some part of that. I'm delighted to be here with you today. And I have a wonderful guest today. My dear, sweet friend, my sister from another mother and another country, Cheryl Rodgers. And Cheryl has a really diverse career. It started in South Africa, continued when she immigrated to Canada, and with training and volunteering in restorative justice and working in the field. And she's now working with Unity, and she is the ministry coordinator for the Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener. Welcome, 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 my beloved friend.
Thank you, Bobs. If I may call you that.
She's the only person who gets to say that, by the way.
Because I'm your sis.
Exactly. Well, one of the things I have absolutely loved since we have met and since we've connected, I mean, the connection is like this, is some of the things that you've done in your life. And I was really, really surprised to hear about Science of Mind in South Africa a long time ago. I didn't know that. Tell me a little bit about that experience for you.
Gosh, I honestly, I don't remember much. It was about 40 years ago. I was a child.
Still are.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Only as old as I feel, right? Yeah, and I just, I was always looking for something different. I was always looking for spiritual growth, spiritual information. I was into philosophy. I was into so many different things. And so that was something that drew me, and it was somebody's home. And I used to attend. And then I got into yoga, got into all those different things. It was also a time when there was a lot of self-help weekends and things like that that I attended. So I was doing a lot of work for myself.
And you met my favorite author.
I did.
Og Mandino.
I had the privilege of meeting Og Mandino. Yeah. He came, I saw the book the other day. He came with one of the other authors, and I can't remember his name now. But yeah, and in fact, Science of Mind brought them there. Wow. I met them through them, yeah. And that was wonderful. It was a wonderful time.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When you first mentioned Og Mandino, because that was one of my favorite authors. I read everything he wrote because I loved the story format and how it touched my heart, which of course, when we're teaching these new thought principles, we are reminding everyone about the power that is within.
Yeah.
It's not, there's nothing out there going to rescue you. It's something we have to do individually. And
Absolutely.
you and I have talked a lot about the qualities of collaboration, cooperation, and tell me a little bit about your vision of New Thought moving forward.
Just talking about Ogmandino, when you spoke about his books, one of my favorites was the Christ Commission. Because I actually have a Jewish background. So Jesus was very foreign to me. And I always thought that Jesus was a prophet. And that book was trying to disprove Jesus. And in trying to disprove Jesus, it proved Jesus. So I really love that book. But anyway, collaboration and doing things together. For me, we talk about being one, and there's so many new thought organizations and new thought pathways and avenues. And we also say, there are many paths to that one source, right?
Yes.
And I think we could do a lot more together as well. Just to, because we say the same things. We have the same message. We may use different words, but why not just, embrace it all?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I've enjoyed with getting to know you and the work that we're doing in Ontario. You're with Unity Kitchener. I'm with the Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake in Toronto. And we have collaborated, just sharing things, attending each other's events. And we did a games night, a virtual games night with 3 Unity churches and our group. And we had a blast.
Absolutely. What fun. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Well, I've had this vision of a new thought bridge. Like there has to be a way to bridge what it is that we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm an ordained Unity minister. I'm an ordained CSL minister. CSL, I've been, there for 23 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Ordained with Unity for only a year and a half or a year. So that was rather new. But what I've discovered in all of that is we are more the same than we are different. So why are we competing?
Absolutely.
What are we competing for?
Absolutely.
It's,
and I don't know. It feels like that sometimes, right? Like competing. It's like, and I mean, one of our visions is a world powerfully transformed by the growing movement of shared spiritual reality, right? That is what Unity says. Unity worldwide.
yes.
And so what does that mean? Like if we look at what that means, then surely we should be doing more together than separately.
Absolutely. And I really like the idea, like when I look at the teachings of CSL and when I look at the teachings of Unity and also the UFBL, Universal Foundation for Better Living, we're all saying exactly the same thing. We're all speaking about oneness, and yet I still see areas of competition or areas where we're separating because, this is mine and this is yours. And I really, I think what's really been a great spot in our relationship is that idea of what would happen if we all just said yes and worked together.
Exactly. And you mentioned authenticity. And I think that's really what it's about, right? Because, and I'm getting goosebumps, which is my sign. But it really is about that because I think when we're in competition, I think that there's fear there.
Yes.
Right? And so when we're truly living authentically and we're truly living the truth we know, that fear is not there.
That's right.
Right? And so that's how we bridge it. And it's almost for me, it's almost like saying that it's taking down bridges in a way, because when there's no fear, there's a natural flow, a natural connection.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that because in the training that I did, I mean, between CSL and Unity, we do allow each other's ministers to do slight teaching information and
Mhm.
organizational type information, and then we will ordain each other's to be in our philosophy. And I'm seeing that coming together, but I'm still seeing areas where we have that. I don't know what it is about humanity where it's mine, mine, mine.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to see that switch to we.
I know. And,
You
and
know?
and I mean, for years we've been saying that, right? From me to
Yeah,
we. There's been
yeah,
so many like organizations. I remember there was a youth event that happened on an annual basis for a while that was about from me to we.
yeah.
Um, and I think that it's something that we need to work on consciously, you
I
know.
agree.
Yeah, I think because we become complacent and then we go back into me when
Hmm.
everything else falls into place or goes,
Yeah,
But I think so consciously thinking about that and consciously um, making that effort. How am I doing that? How am I showing up as we
yeah.
instead of me?
And I think that's one of the things that I really love about the New Thought teaching is that we truly believe in oneness. And I think what I would like to see is more open, honest, collaborative types of conversation and difficult
Yes.
conversations that maybe we don't enjoy having because they bring up different
Mhm.
issues. But I think it's so, so very important. How are we doing with diversity training and equity in all the things that we do? Are we doing everything that we can in
Mhm.
order to promote what it is we teach? And when I look around, I look at the Neil Donald Walshes and the Louise Hayes, and they're from CSL,
Mhm.
and look where they are.
Mhm.
And if their message is being received by millions of people, there is no reason on earth why the messages that we're sharing in our individual centers are not having that same manner of growth. And I think coming together, like I look at Southern Ontario, and we've got a number of, well, we've got one CSL, but we've got a number of unities. If we put all of those together, if we
Mhm.
collaborate and do, okay, each one of us is going to do a service, or we're going to support each other's special events, or
Yeah.
whatever, we begin to bring our congregations together.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about, oh, well, that's my person or that's my person. It's like, we're just one. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't need to
Exactly.
compete.
Well,
Yeah.
and Unity Kitchener is doing that to a certain extent,
Yes.
right? We're doing that with Unity Ottawa and Unity
Yeah.
Windsor. Unity Ottawa and Unity Kitchener, we actually share services. So we're sharing resources. We don't have to each be putting, a service together each week. We're doing spirit groups together, and all those kind of things. But again, coming back to what you said, I really do believe we have to have some difficult conversations
I
because
agree.
what I've found is when approaching people, some people are really excited and want to be connected and involved. And some
Yeah.
people are all about, well, then who does the love offering go to? Who does the tithe go to? Right. And so again, so to me, that's coming from a place of fear.
Yeah.
If we're doing it together, what does it matter who it
Exactly.
goes to?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is there's a way of doing this, I'm sure, where everyone prospers. And when we release the fear, all that we have need of, I mean, what do we teach about prosperity? There's one thing going on. It is the source, it is the substance of all that exists. And so money flows or moves around. It's simply the energy of God in expression in our financial affairs. If
Yeah,
we're in fear, we've already blocked the flow to a degree, guaranteed.
exactly.
And so when we open up in love, all of a sudden there's an influx that happens that is so awesome and so incredible. But again, we have to be in that place of yes, and we.
Yeah.
It's something we can do that's really, for me, it's really speaking to me. And it's the same thing with diversity training. When I look around, and I'm so pleased with Unity Canada, the board for Unity Canada, who have put together events that have had some pretty touchy topics,
Yeah.
and doing white fragility and doing the daring to do work with Kika Ojo Thompson. It's like when we start doing this work and we start talking about, and the Indigenous people in Canada, well, all over Turtle Island, which includes the US and stuff. It's like when we start having those conversations, what is our role in dismantling this racism toward other people? And it's really a journey that we all need to be on it. We all need to begin to work in ways that we start to reconcile and come together so that we can be honoring of all people. And I know when I first heard about some of the things in Canada here where their schools, the residential schools, and the children that had been, I don't know if they died of natural causes or if they were murdered or whatever, but they were buried together in unmarked graves. Like, that's horrible, to take children from their families. And I think that what I love about our teaching, when we're really clear and doing it right, I think we bring a great perspective of, what I put out in the world comes back to me multiplied. The law of attraction is exact. I can only attract to me what I am.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
powerful.
And so that means being generous, right? That's I call it the law of generosity. It's not the law of prosperity. It's a law of generosity, which brings about prosperity, because you let go, you have faith, it becomes, something that's in the flow. Absolutely. You and I are on one page. That's why we are twins. Just with different hair and from different mothers.
And different countries on different continents. And somehow
let me share something. I don't know that if most people know. South Africa, when South Africa had apartheid, the people from the government during the apartheid era came to Canada to learn how to do segregation. So people don't know that.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what? We don't know our history. Like, that's the thing that gets me. It's just, when I think of some of the things that are missed in our history education, it's incredible. Like, I look at, in Canada, we'll look at the US and go, oh, look how racist against Black people. And then here we go, oh, aren't we nice? No. We had slavery here too, and racism still exists. So I look at all that and go, people think Canadians are nice. We got a long way to go. And I think just having those conversations and being willing to explore, what is it that we've done? We need to know our history. I had a conversation, this will be a little bit radical, but I had a conversation with my husband and with my son, and we had some agreement and disagreement, but we're taking down monuments all over North America because of what they've stood for historically and what those people or events have done. And I disagree with that. I think what we should do is place a monument directly in front of it that speaks to the new reality, the truth, the power of. So, let's say it's harm against Indigenous people, then we put a beautiful statue created by a Canadian Indigenous person, and that gets put directly in front, so that the history's there, but it's hidden in the back. You got to walk around to see it. But the new idea, the model of moving forward, is in front of it. And I think, like, you look at, the prime minister, the first prime minister of Canada, whoever, there's there's been tough stuff all in our past.
Mhm.
But does it serve us to pretend and erase it? Or
No.
should we, in fact, go, whoa, and let's go, no, no, we can do better. And
Yeah.
we've got remarkable artists all throughout Canada and the United States. Let's bring those artists together and
Yeah.
let's create monuments that slap that right in the face and go,
Exactly.
no, this is
Yeah.
our new reality. We're reconciling by not denying our history, facing it as hard as it is, because it
Yeah.
is hard to imagine the residential schools and what we've
Mm.
done here in Canada, the slavery that was in Canada, the racism that's still rampant. What I want to see is us facing that, and then from there going, okay, let's create something that honors where we want to go, how we want to be, the
Yes.
real the real loving self that we want to reveal. And that for me, so I've had, when I bring that up, I've had some people go, no, the monuments need to go. And then other people going, that's,
Yeah. You can't rub that out, right? It happened.
you
And
can't.
so for me, it
It did
becomes
happen.
it becomes both and, right? We talk about
Both ends.
oneness, both and.
Yes.
There's no separation, right?
Yeah,
Acknowledging that and acknowledging, to me, it's part of our evolution as well,
it
because it
is.
happened everywhere, right? And it's
Yeah,
not just South Africa or Canada or the US, it's happened all over the
it's
place. So it's
everywhere.
both
Yeah,
and. The Spaniards, the Portuguese, the Germans, they all went to Africa and colonized Africa. The British,
the British.
so absolutely. So, yeah, both and.
Yeah, I think that for me is a really, really important conversation, is to really sit back and go, what is our responsibility and what is it we should learn? My daughter attends a French school, and she is, curious as to why in a school that has numerous Black teachers, why she's never been taught history from junior kindergarten right through now to grade 11. She's never had a history teacher who was a colored person. And it's like, how does that happen?
Mm.
You've got all of these teachers, all of these students, but it's only
Mhm.
white people who teach history. That in and of itself has a bias, whether we want to know that or not. I mean, I learned a lot with the author of White Fragility.
Mhm.
As white people, we got to just sort of stand up and acknowledge what it is we've done or that we're still doing, whether it's inadvertent or whatever. We need to know that and begin to change how we're doing some things,
Yeah.
so we can create the equity that we seek and begin to create harmony in the world around us. And I've been particularly fortunate because I was the minister of two Black congregations. And when I stepped in it, and I would, because I was raised in a white family in a
Mhm.
white city, predominantly white city. And so every now and again, I would say something that was highly inappropriate. I was blessed by having somebody come to me and say, do you really think that was the right thing to say here? And it was like, "Ooh, no, no, and thank you, thank you, thank you for telling me, because I don't know what I don't know, and
Exactly.
I'm willing to learn. I want to learn. I want to be the best version of me I can be, and I can only be that if I'm willing to learn about, I made a mistake. How do I rectify that? What
Yeah.
would be the better thing? And that's part of our journey too of oneness, is to acknowledge that if we've created harm, if we've done harm, and we all have at some point, if I've harmed someone, then I want to be held accountable to that, because I might not know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So anytime something goes bad, it's like my attitude is go to source.
Yeah.
If somebody says something to me or about me that hurts me, I'm going to go to them rather than go to three other people and go, can you
Yeah.
believe what they did? That doesn't change anything, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that idea of learning and discovering and becoming more of what we really could be, I
I think
think.
that's the key, though. The key is acknowledging that we don't know, And so educating ourselves and taking
Yes.
responsibility and being accountable for the
Yeah.
roles that we have played. Like you're saying, just having a white skin, people don't understand whether you're brought up in poverty or you're brought up in affluence. Just having a white skin gives you white superiority. And people don't understand that. You go into a shop as a poor white person, you're probably not going to be followed around like a black man who would go in looking the same way as you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so, so we've got to recognize that, and we've got to teach ourselves. The other thing I just wanted to say is that, and I can't remember. Oh my gosh.
Showing.
Oh yeah, it was there, and it was like, but anyway, but that's that's what I wanted to say. History is written from the perspective, from the angle of the historian and his background or their background, right? And it's normally only written from one view, one perspective. And that's where things need to change. It needs to, again, be both and embrace all, so that there's a real true picture of what actually happened, because we believed what we learned, and now I'm learning that wasn't even true. And I used to think history was written in stone. Right?
I know, me too. It's in the history books. It must be right. But you're right. Everything is perception. And I think when we look at the world from that idea and we go, okay, who is saying this? I think the first time I realized that was, as, the media expanded and we could, I think it was probably Desert Storm, where I'm watching CNN and then I'm watching CBC and then I'm watching the BBC. And I'm getting really different stories about what is actually going on with the very same footage.
Okay.
And it's like, that's what, and when I went to college, I studied journalism. And that was at a time when my teacher said, who, what, where, when, why, and don't you give me any commentary. Well, now all we get is commentary.
Yeah.
And so you have to sort of filter your way through to find the facts of what's going on. And you probably need to watch 3 or 4 or 5 sources in order to get the story correct, because each perception, somebody once said to me, there's my side and there's your side, and then somewhere in the middle is the truth. And I think that is important to understand when we're reading a book, when we're studying history. We need to be looking at it from many, many different angles.
Absolutely.
And on that note, let us take a little commercial break. This is Rev B with my good friend Cheryl Rodgers, and this show is The Joy Show, Just One You. We'll be back.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? or perhaps a desire to learn. Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
And welcome back. I'm Reverend Barbara Schreiner Trudell, affectionately called Rev B, or by my good friend Cheryl here, Barb's. So anyway, we are talking about all kinds of fun things and getting a little into some deep, serious stuff. But what I love about our teaching is that we don't shy away from what's really going on in the world. We don't pretend it isn't. We don't pretend that there isn't illness or racism or pain and agony going on around the world. We face it head on and go, what is mine to do? And for me, I always imagine kind of sharing a sense of love, that I can look at something and rather than judge it, condemn it, I look at it and go, kind of what is mine to do? What positive impact could I have? And one of the things that we truly believe is that our words create, our words have power. So that to me is an important part of the conversation, is to go, how do I acknowledge, like you said, this and that? It's like both together create the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that makes me think about the fact that we have a light self and a shadow self, right? And you can't ignore that shadow self because we all have one. And that's what makes up the whole human being, right? But we also know that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah, and so honoring both, right?
Yeah.
Both,
Exactly.
and, right?
Always. Yeah.
And
it's a paradox.
It is a paradox. And one of the things, like when I came up with the idea for this show, Just One You, is that as each and every one of us starts to integrate all aspects of ourselves and to respect it all, right, rather than try to hide it, which is what most of us do. We wear our masks. I think it's so important to be able to acknowledge who I am and where I am, and to know that every human being on the planet is both, this and. And so even the yin yang symbol, when we look at that, we see the two aspects fully integrated, which creates the whole. And so as we're journeying along, we want to make sure, I think anyway, that I do my very best to honor that which I call bad about me, and to change that story, to change that narrative, so that I begin to see that all of me is good. The reason I call something bad is because somebody told me when I was a child, no, you can't do that. Don't do this. Good girls don't do that. That's bad. That's dirty. That's wrong. And we get all these messages and we begin to live this fractured existence, which doesn't honor our planet. And I think that's where our wars, our hatred, all of that comes from.
And so going back to thoughts, right? Shifting our perspectives and changing the way we think and the way we see things is the way we can change our world, right? And behind that is what's very important is to feel it. Feel it as a reality, right? I call that the rocket fuel behind the thoughts, words, and actions. You have to feel it to make it real, and the universe knows then what to do, right? It's all about bringing it into that vibration, putting it out there, and it coming into being. I heard something from Neil Donald Welsh on Saturday, actually, which I really loved, because we also talk about, we create our own reality.
Yes.
And so some people really struggle with that. Then why is this child sick, or why is Why is there a war? Why is, all this going on? And what he said, which is just so, it just seems so simple, right? And so common sense, but we got to hear it. But he basically said that the external world is created by all of us, not just one of us.
Exactly.
Right? So we participate in creating the reality in outside of ourselves, but we don't create that reality completely. What we do create our reality from is within ourselves, right?
Yes.
We create our reality by how we choose to see things, how we choose to respond to things, because we can all experience the same thing and see it so differently.
It's true. It's
so
true.
That's where we have the power to create our reality.
And create our whole world.
Yes.
Like, we recognize that our world is created via consciousness, the race consciousness, which means the collective of every single human being, that collective consciousness. And the consciousness is the thoughts that I think, the words that I use. And so if I'm thinking about, I hate this, I hate that, I hate the other thing, I'm taking the collective consciousness and sucking it down into the mud. If I can sit back and acknowledge my fear, my doubt, allow myself to feel my discomfort, and then at the same time stand up and shine and go, you know what? I choose love. I choose to bless this event. I choose to pray about my own limitations that I might expand my consciousness. I choose to put love into the collective energy so that I lift it rather than pull it down. I always want to be part of the solution, not the problem.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm not perfect yet.
Yeah, no. When we're perfect, I don't think we'll be here anymore. I think that's when we go, bye. If that ever happens, right? If we ever get there, because I'm not sure we do.
Well, and I truly believe we're created perfect, whole, and complete. And then there's the humanity of us that doubts that, and so performs accordingly, right? We show up as, let me hide, let me pretend, let me fake it till all of these things, because we fear that if people really saw us, they wouldn't love us. And the truth is, some people won't.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. Right?
Exactly. It is okay. What's important is that we learn to love ourselves, right?
That's the key.
And so, and what I wanted to add to what you were saying is absolutely, and it is the collective, but it starts with one person at a time, and it starts with me, right? Exactly. And if each of us was working on ourselves and working on loving ourselves and accepting ourselves and embracing ourselves and putting love out there, loving everything and everyone as perfect and whole, like you said, for what it is, that's how we create that tipping scale.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's one person at a time.
One at a time. I'm only responsible for me.
Yeah.
I'm only responsible for me. I love Greg Braden, and I think it might have been in his books. I'm not even going to give the title because I don't know. I'll get it wrong again. But Greg Braden talks about the collective consciousness and the minuscule number of people that need to shift in order to create a full global shift. Yeah. It is a very small percentage. Like, I think it's, like 1% or less than 1%. If that many people at the same moment had that idea of peace or self-love or self-nurturing, that yes, I am enough. I am a child of the universe, made perfect, whole, and complete, and I'm going to shine my light because I know I'm unique and special like everyone else.
Exactly.
It is in that energy that's a very small, a minuscule amount of people that would actually change the collective consciousness in a real big way. I've heard of, I think it was Gene Houston. Yeah, Gene Houston, who would talk about jump time. And, there's moments in history where things are going along, and all of a sudden something transforms so rapidly and so immediately that you go, whoa, how did that happen? Mm-hmm. It's all consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All consciousness. I love that. That gets me all excited. That's what I go. If I could just be the best me moment by moment, then maybe I can be part of that collective that lifts rather than pulls
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Release
100%.
that fear.
Yeah, exactly, right. And we're human, right? So we will go up and down and up and down, and but we
Yeah.
need to be able to be okay with that and
Yes.
know that this too shall pass. And
Yeah.
and I'll be fine again. Um,
Yeah, everything changes
yeah,
constantly, right?
exactly.
I remember years ago doing a Vipassana meditation retreat, which is 10 days of silence. And in doing that, you have to practice noble silence, which means you don't look at another person, you don't touch another person, you don't listen to music, you don't write, you don't exercise. You know, little walking outside is fine, meditation, but it's all being alone. And it's about coming to terms with that inner story that we have. And what they do is they take you through a practice which reminds us that everything is changing. In the manifest world, change is the constant. And yet how
Yes.
many of us resist change? Like, we hold on for dear life. We're not comfortable with what's going on. We don't necessarily like it, but it's familiar, so we keep it rather
Yeah.
than striving for something big and grand and beautiful.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
and now is the time, right? Now is the perfect time. I really believe that with what we've been going through and where we are right now, it's about expanding consciousness and about
it
doing things
is.
differently and not needing to go back to the same way.
Yeah, it's interesting through COVID is, people were going, oh, it'll return to normal, it'll return to normal. Eventually it'll return to normal. And I'm going, so what's normal? It is the idea of mediocrity. It's not it's something to strive for. It is that stuck energy of continuing to do things in a certain way that didn't necessarily work in the first place and certainly isn't working now. And I think my friend is frozen. I'm not sure what's happening with the internet or if it's even my internet, but let us continue. So as we explore these ideas, coming to that place of accepting our uniqueness, of allowing ourselves to shine and be what we were created to be, the moment we can let go of the past, the old stories, and stand instead in this place of possibility and opportunity, we create a world that actually does work well for everyone. And I always like to think of, the phrase that, the world is a loving, beautiful, peaceful place. When I choose to see it from that perspective and live from that idea, I begin to create that more and more. And that's the journey that I'm, seeking to create in my life, is to do my best to accept change is the constant, and that whatever's happening, however it's happening, somehow it is taking me to my greatest vision for life and living. And if I can honor that journey, what I feel, what I think, and Cheryl had mentioned earlier about the feelings behind the thoughts or the feelings that come with the thoughts. And those feelings are really important. I know myself as a practitioner, the practitioner work that I do, I always ask two questions. One is, what do you want? The second is, how would you feel emotionally if you had it? Because that seems to be our barometer or whatever for what it is that we truly seek. And I think that's an important question to ask. And so when we explore our fears and our doubts, it would be beautiful if we could just sit with it and go, wow, this I find really fearful. This I find really difficult or challenging, and just sit with it. And it is in sitting with it that I begin to discover where it came from or what its roots are. And it's in those moments that I can begin to create something new. That's when I start to shift what's going on. I begin to allow myself to shine. I remember as a little girl being told, who do you think you are? What makes you think that you're so great? Things like that, which of course created really low self-esteem for a very long time. That's not what our world needs. Our world needs love and more of it. You know, it's love that makes the world go round. I think that's a piece of music. Or we can go back to Imagine, which, you know, John Lennon, it's so beautiful. Imagine a world without possessions. Imagine a world without borders. Imagine all of the things that we used to separate, alter, change. What if we just let all of that go and we chose instead to be together harmoniously, to be together lovingly, to find a way to accept one another as we are, where we are, with whatever's going on in our life? What if we accepted ourselves as a growing, expanding individual and know that I'm probably not going to get it perfect every time, but I'm willing to learn. I am teachable. I think that's the very best thing we can be as human beings, is teachable, to sit back and go, here's the thing that I don't know. Here's the thing I don't understand, but I'm willing to learn. There she is.
I lost internet, so I'm now on my phone.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just talking about how the, you know, the feelings, you were mentioning thoughts and the feelings back of them. And that's one of the things for me is, you know, I talked about when I do prayer work for anyone, I want to know what you want, but I also, more importantly, want to know how you would feel
Yeah.
if you had what you asked for. And that, those feelings, they're powerful. They will kick you into high gear in short order
Yeah.
if you let it.
Absolutely. And we can change our feelings, you know. We think we can't, but we can.
Yeah.
Even if we pretend
Yes.
for 1 minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I love that. I had, I remember years ago, I was in a marriage that wasn't so great, and something was going on, and I was really angry at my husband. And, you know, he looked at me and he goes, well, you know, you're better than that. You know that you can look at this from a different perspective. I said, absolutely, I know that, and I'll get back to you when I'm ready to be there. Right now, I just want to be mad.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm fully
hear you.
confident.
I hear you.
Sometimes we just let the feeling be there and then go, okay, I've had that for a few minutes and now let me do something else.
Yeah.
There's something powerful in that. Just honoring where I am, right? That can be the key sometimes, rather than going, oh, I can't be angry because that's bad. Girls aren't supposed to do that, which is messaging
Exactly.
that I got as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, join the girl. You don't have to be mad, which makes us mad.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
I'm going to come back on my computer if that's okay.
yes. We still have a couple of minutes. There.
Okay, thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome.
My
Yes.
apologies.
So tell me a little bit about your journey to unity, like how you got there, or you know what that story is. Do you have some information about that?
You know, I actually went 1 year with some friends to watch a movie at this place called Unity Kitchener, and it was the Indigo Children. And I'd never heard of Unity or Unity Kitchener, but I have this, we call ourselves the Angel Girls, this group of friends that we did so many wonderful things together. We would have dinners and the different color theme for the chakras, and we went through the different chakras, and each dinner was a different color to line up with that. But anyway, yeah, so and then I remember it was Reverend Sharon Ketchum, and she had a little discussion afterwards, and she said a little bit about unity, and I thought, oh, this sounds interesting. And so I started going by myself just to see what it was like. And like many people, I felt like I was at home. It was just so wonderful, to just hear that, oh my gosh, basically, that it's non-denominational, but and that Jesus is the way shower as a man who came to show us who we are and how to be, which is something I always believed. Yeah, and that there are many paths, and we respect all paths. So those were the kinds of things that really attracted me, and I kept going back after that. And then I had a really tough year, and unity certainly helped me with that.
Yeah, I think for me it's similar. Like I found CSL after having a spiritual epiphany, and that happened in a more fundamentalist Christian church, and the experience was so profound. It was completely life altering, and it was in that experience that all of a sudden I questioned everything. But in that church that I was in, I wanted to know more. I started reading the Bible, and I'd go to Bible class, and I would attend every service and every event that they had. They did morning service, evening service, Sunday morning prayer, Wednesday night prayer. I did all of it. And I stayed there for about a year and a half, but then I left because pastor couldn't answer a fundamental question I had, which is, what about people who've never heard of Jesus Christ? Why is it that they're going to hell? Why is it that, the rabbi is going to hell? Like, I can't, that doesn't feel like the experience that I had, that spiritual epiphany of the oneness, the love, the glory of God. It was like God as love it was like being bathed in it. It was an interesting experience. But as a result of that, I just couldn't. So after about a year and a half, I finally left. And that's when I found CSL. It was actually the Center for Positive Living in Calgary was the name at the time. And like you, when I walked through that door at that very first service, it was like, oh my gosh, it's like I've come home. The message was a message of love. And it was so moving and so powerful that it became the energy of change for me that transformed my life completely.
Yeah. And what I love about both, it's about inclusivity, right? It's not exclusive. And so that for me was huge, that, we embrace all and we respect all. And I also loved some of the talks that were done, because brought in different prophets and different teachers, quotes and sayings and, things like that, which to me was just awesome. I was never really religious, but I was always on this spiritual journey, searching and looking and changing and shifting and
and doing that human thing to find the divine. And
exactly.
It's interesting because I always believed in God. Right here. Gonna hide it somewhere.
Yeah,
Put it right in here.
I always believed in one power, one source. I couldn't believe it that God was a man in the sky. And I remember when I was I think it was about 9, I don't know, 10 or 11, I used to say to my dad, I know God made everything, but who made God? Right? That was I needed to understand who made God.
Who made God? There had to be something. Well, it's interesting because, like you, I was raised without religion. And so my understanding of God was what I got from the collective in the world around me. So it wasn't until that night at age 27 when I walked into that church with my mother-in-law, and all of a sudden it's like this huge transformation. And that was the most powerful moment of my life. And it changed the complete trajectory for everything I would do from that moment forward. And I have been blessed in so many ways. And the road was a rough one for a long time because I was changing like night and day. It was a big, big shift.
Well,
but
look
a
what
powerful one. And I'm so
yeah,
incredibly,
look what the
look where
caterpillar
we
has to go
are.
through to
Look where
become a
we
butterfly.
are. Oh, I know that fat little fuzzy worm all of a sudden flying in brilliance and beauty, but
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
dissolving the the outer shell that messages that we've received. It's releasing all of that and then waking up to something bright and beautiful and new, which was always there.
yeah. I
My
believe that's
my
why.
husband wrote.
Sorry, I was just going to
Go
say, I
ahead.
believe that's why we all go through so much muck. Because that's what
Mhm.
fertilizes us and yeah, helps us grow.
Well, you can't get beautiful roses without a bunch of horse shit. So,
Yeah,
so
exactly, Mom.
it's like
Turns to
sometimes
goo.
you gotta add the muck and and then you get there.
Well,
Well, this
yeah,
has
that's
been a delight. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show with me. I'm really, really grateful. I love this conversation. Hopefully, everybody watching did as well. Thank you. Thank you, my dear
thank
sweet
you.
friend.
Thank you so much, Bobs. Love you.
I love you too. I love you too. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being part of this conversation, part of this journey. I am so incredibly grateful to be here and to share this with you. And I just want to remind you that. Every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake is right here on the New Thought Media Network. And we're creating inspiring hour of great joy. And of course, next week, I'll be back again at 3 p.m. here on the New Thought Media Network with my good friend, T. Jazz Lewis, great bass player, wonderful human being, and someone that I know you will find incredibly interesting. And he's just he's like a bundle of love, just showing up in his unique and remarkable way. So it's important. This show is really about embracing all that you are and allowing your natural and authentic self to be revealed, to stand naked to the wind, to allow the world to see you, all of you, what you love about you and what you don't, because all of it made you who you are today. And all of it comes from the one source, God, the good, or universe, or first cause, or whatever word you want to use. What I know is you've been created perfect, whole, and complete, that you are unique and special, just like everybody else. I'm Reverend Barbara Schreiner Trudell from the Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake in Toronto, Ontario. God bless you. I love you. Have a beautiful weekend and happy Mother's Day.